On the surface, it looked like just another trade dispute, but beneath the headlines, something deeper was unraveling. Elon Musk, one of America's most iconic entrepreneurs, is no longer aligning Tesla, SpaceX, or Starlink with U.S. federal policy. Welcome to Geo Capitalist, where we decode global wealth, one power shift at a time. Go grab your coffee, and let's get into it. Oh boy, it's not what you think. Over the course of 2025, what began as quiet withdrawals from subsidies and contracts has turned into a full-scale geopolitical pivot. And the destination? BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, 5 nations that just a decade ago were dismissed as emerging markets, are now forming the backbone of Musk's new global infrastructure. It wasn't a press release that tipped off analysts. It was the absence of one. While Washington debated tariffs and compliance restrictions, Musk signed a multi-billion-dollar Starlink infrastructure deal with India, without a single U.S. oversight agency involved. At the same time, Tesla's energy software began appearing in provincial Chinese grid systems. SpaceX launch manifests began listing international payloads previously handled through U.S. defense contracts. The change wasn't loud, it was surgical. To some, it looks like rebellion. To others, strategy. But one thing is clear. Musk isn't just moving capital. He's relocating influence. This isn't a protest exit from Washington, it's a reorientation of where the future is built. And it raises a new kind of question. When a global tech empire stops answering to one government, whose rules still apply? Because what's happening right now might be more than just a business maneuver. It could be the moment Elon Musk ditches America for BRICS and rewrites the rules of global power in the process. Subscribe to the channel to keep bringing you great content, and let's make sense of this together. It didn't happen with a headline. It happened through omission, contract removals, missed briefings, and silence from the companies that used to sit at the table. In Q2 of 2025, the U.S. government quietly stripped Musk's firms from multiple high-level advisory positions. Tesla was removed from the Federal EV Infrastructure Forum. xAI lost its place on the National AI Strategy Group. And behind closed doors, SpaceX was cut from several next-gen satellite procurement programs. There was no press conference, just doors that no longer opened. But while Washington was stepping away, BRICS nations were leaning in. India accelerated Starlink integration across 5 major states. Brazil finalized a $2.3 billion EV infrastructure deal, with no U.S. regulatory ties. South Africa moved forward with spectrum clearance for Starlink broadband, designating it a critical communications utility. These aren't just business expansions. They're national infrastructure partnerships, signed, sealed, and delivered without any involvement from the country that helped fund Musk's rise. The Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. officials were blindsided by the speed of withdrawal. A Department of Defense source put it bluntly, "We didn't lose Musk, we priced him out." But that may miss the bigger picture. This wasn't simply about cost, it was about control. The more oversight Washington demanded, the more Musk shifted into systems where he could build without constraint. And as that leverage evaporates, so does America's ability to predict, let alone direct, where his technologies go next. In May 2025, Elon Musk sat before Congress and said, without flinching, "If innovation is punished in the U.S., I'll take innovation to countries that still believe in it." Days later, Tesla began formally withdrawing from all U.S.-funded EV corridor initiatives. SpaceX paused all active Pentagon briefings, and Starlink, once considered a vital defense communications partner, stopped responding to override access requests from U.S. defense agencies. But this wasn't a tantrum. It was the final phase of a long-planned exit strategy. Tesla's legal team had already begun repositioning its international assets to avoid the entanglement of American compliance. Lithium and cobalt sourcing were rerouted through South African and Malaysian ports. Brazil's Ministry of Communications confirmed a Tesla agreement to deploy a nationwide EV charging network, backed by $2.3 billion in investment, completely outside U.S. regulation. No logos changed, but the supply chain did. And while government officials scrambled to clarify the boundaries of federal influence, Musk's companies operated as if those boundaries no longer applied. A senior Tesla executive, speaking to Financial Times on background, described the company's current posture as a firewall against policy whiplash. Translated, "We'll build, but not under your rules." This raises a more strategic concern. If companies like Tesla can scale globally while routing around Washington, what happens to national influence in a world where the most powerful platforms no longer need permission to move? For the first time in decades, one of America's greatest innovators is building a future somewhere else. Starlink was once considered the crown jewel of American innovation, a low-Earth orbit network capable of powering emergency communications, battlefield operations, and broadband access across the globe. But in 2025, the satellite constellation became something else entirely: a decentralized asset serving global governments without U.S. oversight. And for the Pentagon, that shift happened faster than anyone expected. After SpaceX denied override access to Starlink during a classified regional conflict earlier this year, the Department of Defense pulled over $4 billion in procurement contracts. The gap was quickly filled, not by allies, but by BRICS. India announced full deployment of Starlink in 5 states by Q4. Brazil requested national rollout as part of a $1.1 billion education and broadband package. South Africa moved to fast-track Starlink integration into its emergency network response systems. These weren't consumer rollouts. These were national-level partnerships, and each one was signed without a single nod from Washington. Even more telling, Russia's leaked procurement documents referenced interest in non-state LEO providers with military-grade performance, widely interpreted as an open door for Starlink without using Musk's name. The message is clear. Starlink no longer operates as an American extension. It's a sovereign system, mobile, powerful, and loyal only to its own deployment strategy. As one defense analyst put it, Musk didn't take Starlink away from the U.S. He took it global. And in doing so, he created a precedent: infrastructure that outruns the influence of the nation that built it. While U.S. export laws tighten around AI tools, Elon Musk's technology is quietly expanding where few thought possible, into the very heart of China's energy infrastructure. In May 2025, regulators in Guangdong province approved the deployment of Tesla's AutoBidder AI software to help balance regional power grids. No announcement, no press tour, just filings, buried in commercial energy permits, confirming that a U.S. origin algorithm is now optimizing load balancing in one of the world's most complex, state-controlled energy systems. AutoBidder was originally designed for fleet energy optimization, but repurposed for industrial grids, it gives Tesla a silent but strategic foothold in one of the most sensitive areas of Chinese infrastructure: power distribution. According to Bloomberg, it's the first Western energy AI tool cleared for national grid use in 2025. And how did it get past export scrutiny? It was filed under non-vehicle commercial energy software, a classification that evades the latest U.S. AI export controls. Treasury officials have since opened a review, questioning whether the software qualifies as dual-use technology. But Musk's legal team insists it does not, arguing that it's commercially standard and outside the bounds of defense concern. To investors, this may look like a smart workaround, but to policymakers, it's something else entirely. Because if Tesla's back-end software can bypass national oversight and integrate into state-linked grids, it begs the question, who controls innovation when code becomes currency? And more urgently, where will that code be embedded next? By mid-2025, Musk's companies no longer resembled traditional U.S. firms. Starlink had active rollout agreements in India, Brazil, and South Africa. Tesla's AI was powering Chinese energy grids. SpaceX's launch manifest was now 40% international, and xAI, Musk's private AI venture, was reportedly training foundational models in data centers across the UAE. This wasn't a pivot, it was a pattern. What's unique isn't just the global expansion, it's the absence of national alignment. Musk hasn't declared loyalty to another government, but he's no longer operating within the traditional sphere of U.S. influence either. Allies have taken notice. Germany's Federal Network Agency launched a review of its Starlink exposure. Japan delayed regulatory clearance, citing command ambiguity in times of crisis. Australia's Defence Committee raised alarms about satellite override control, pointing to incidents where Starlink service was disabled during active conflict zones. And yet, despite these concerns, none of these nations banned the service. Why? Because the performance advantage is undeniable. Faster speeds, lower latency, greater resilience. Starlink remains the gold standard in global satellite communications, even as its command structure grows more opaque. This leaves world governments in a new kind of bind, dependent on a platform they don't fully control, led by a technologist who no longer answers to the systems they built. It's not defiance, it's detachment. And in an age where infrastructure is power, Musk has created a model of influence that doesn't require allegiance, only adoption. While the U.S. expands restrictions on tech exports and scrutinizes corporate alliances, China is moving in the opposite direction, opening the gates for Elon Musk. In May 2025, Chinese regulators granted Tesla unprecedented clearance to expand its Shanghai Gigafactory, along with exclusive rights to deploy its AI-powered fleet optimization software nationwide. Even long-time domestic leaders like BYD haven't secured that level of access. More telling was the additional land grant Tesla received for battery development, alongside exemptions from China's strict data localization laws. These are not standard approvals. They are signals. Tesla isn't just welcome in China, it's being invited to embed. As part of the deal, Anhui province officials confirmed Tesla will co-lead a state-funded EV research facility receiving subsidies to help offset manufacturing cuts in the U.S. Why would Beijing give this kind of access to a foreign firm, especially one that just lost favor with its home country? Because China isn't trying to own Musk, it's trying to harness him. By offering flexibility, autonomy, and infrastructure support, China positions itself not as a controller, but as a platform where innovation can run without restriction. One Asia-Pacific analyst put it bluntly, China doesn't need to control Elon Musk, it just needs him to stay productive and stay in the system. While the West raises barriers, China is setting the table. And for a man who moves where freedom to build is greatest, that's all the invitation he needs. By the middle of 2025, the writing is on the wall. Elon Musk hasn't declared war on the United States. He hasn't defected to any rival power, but he has done something just as profound. He's rewritten the rules of allegiance in a multipolar world. Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, and xAI are no longer extensions of U.S. economic power. They are transnational entities, mobile, adaptable, and increasingly accountable to no single government. While Washington investigates and reacts, Musk builds elsewhere. Brazil is laying Tesla's EV infrastructure. South Africa is preparing for Starlink national coverage. India has already integrated Starlink into its education and broadband strategy, and China, despite the geopolitical tension, has given Tesla a deeper role in its industrial future than any other U.S. company still standing. This isn't just a shift in supply chains or revenue streams. It's a shift in influence. The U.S. is no longer the gravitational center of Musk's empire, and perhaps no longer the center of global innovation itself. That's a hard truth for policymakers, especially those who once subsidized the rise of Musk's companies. But it's not just about Musk. It's about what comes next. Because what he's doing, building critical infrastructure outside the reach of traditional oversight, is a model others are watching. If nations can't control the innovators they fund, and the platforms they rely on move freely between borders, then the question isn't where power lies. The question is, who's building the future, and under whose terms? If you found this breakdown eye-opening, I recommend watching our next video. It connects directly to what you've just seen. Hit subscribe and let us know in the comments. Is Elon Musk simply going global or rewriting the rules of power entirely? Because no matter where he builds next, the world will be watching. This was Elon Musk, ditches America for BRICS. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.